Hi everybody, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Juan and I am Just One Reader, and you are joining me today for another recent reads wrap-up. This will be a very quick, hopefully quick discussion on books numbers 49 and 50 that I've read so far this 2017. Both of these books are awesome and I really liked them. But the first one that I want to talk about in particular is my favorite book of the year. I mean, I think it's very safe to say that this book will be just the number one book of my 2017. I really don't think that I will read a book that can surpass the level of enjoyment and just joy that I felt while reading this book. So the book is Apple of My Eye by Helen Hanff. And I have made a separate review on this one. And I just want to tell you here in these recent reads that it's just a perfect fit for me. And it's a very personal sort of match for me. I really felt like I was just experiencing something that I should have experienced many years ago. I really, while I was reading this, I was so amazed by how much I resonated with this work of nonfiction, and with the author and the stories that she experienced, the adventures that she had. I just kept thinking, how is it possible that I didn't read this before? I mean, I couldn't believe that I had been living without this in my life. So that tells you how much I loved this. Now, basically, Apple of My Eye is a nonfiction work by Helen Hanff when she was hired to write a book about New York City for tourists. And so she embarked on this adventure along with one of her friends, Patty Gibbs, and together, this middle-aged friends, New Yorkers, like true New Yorkers at heart, they started to rediscover the city and just take the tours and do all the touristy things. And this book is that. It's that experience that they had over the course of a few months. It's an absolute perfect match for me, and I will, of course, give it 5 out of 5 stars. Not because the book itself is perfect or literary or, it blew me away in terms of characters or the setting or, the literary qualities, but it's perfection for me as a reader, and the joy, the sheer pleasure that it gave me, and the constant smile that it put up on my face, that's worth the $100 that I paid for it. So if you would like to know more about Apple of My Eye by Helen Hanff, I do recommend you to go and check out my separate review because I talk in more depth and with more detail on it. But yeah, it's just a fantastic book, and I cannot wait to pick up more by Helen Hanff. Now, book number 50 that I've read so far in 2017, I also really liked. I gave it 4 stars, but it's more like a 4.5, 4.75. It's very close to a 5, but I don't think I can give it the full 5-star rating that I usually save up for like the perfect reads. So the book is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis, and this is a book that I had been wanting to read for years, or well, for almost 2 years. I really wanted to read this ever since I saw Adrian and Dalton from the channel Stripped Cover Lit mention it, which they have mentioned it, ever since they started their channel on BookTube, and they constantly talked about this book and also Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk. And I loved Stripped Cover Lit. I really got into their channel, and I hadn't really read a lot of what they were reviewing or talking about. So last year I decided I was going to read Fight Club by Palahniuk. I did, and it blew me away like I never had been blown away before. So it was like my top four book of last year that I read last year. So then this year I decided to finally read American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis, which is one of Adrian's favorite books. And I went into this kind of intimidated and scared because it's not very long. It's almost 400 pages, but it's not very long. But I watching a lot of reviews and reading reviews and stuff, I knew that a lot of people who didn't like it, which there was a lot of readers who really didn't get along with it, just as there was a big quantity of people who really loved it. But the people who gave it negative reviews complained more than anything else about the writing style. They said that the writing style was incredibly boring and dull and it almost hypnotic, like putting you to sleep, and very repetitive. And they really did not get along with the writing style. And also, they complained about the character, and, he's obviously a very derailed human being. He's pretty much the worst human being you could possibly imagine. And, they complained about all the minutiae, the incredible overwhelming detail that the book contains. Now, all of those things made me very intimidated, and I was kind of iffy and kind of wary when I started reading it. But immediately, I mean, just from the first chapter, I knew that I was in and that I was just ready for this ride. This book was awesome. It was incredibly smart, incredibly funny. No one had told me or warned me just how hilarious this book was. It is incredibly violent and gory, and it's not for the faint of heart. It is a book that contains a lot of detail in every possible way. Basically, we follow this one character, Patrick Bateman, who is this 26 or 27-year-old man living in New York. He is a Wall Street broker. He has, he's rich, he's handsome. People actually mistake him for an actor or a model on the street. Like, he has all these routines. There's a very good description, a very detailed description of his fitness workout routine. I actually tried that one day at the gym and I almost died. Like, don't do it. Don't do the Patrick Bateman workout unless you are actually fit for it, because that day I almost didn't make it. What I enjoyed the most about reading this book, if I had to choose just one thing, was reading this book. This kind of a reading experience is the closest that I have ever been in a book, the closest thing that I found to my job. My job as a therapist, as a psychoanalyst, listening to a patient's thoughts, fantasies, listening to every occurrence that a patient has. That's what you get with reading American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. It's what you're in for. You are absolutely inside. You're in the mind, in the train of thought, in the mindset of this character. I think Patrick Bateman has to be my favorite character that I have read in 2017, and which sounds weird because he is a narcissist. Like, he is the definition of what in psychoanalysis we call a narcissistic patient. He's not exactly a psychopath, and this is kind of where the book sort of takes a lot of liberties with the word psycho, because obviously he's referring to a psychopath. And if you get really technical psychoanalytically about what's the difference between a narcissistic patient and a psychopathic personality, there are some differences. They're very close, but there are some differences. And I think for the majority of the novel, Patrick Bateman is pretty much just your absolute definition of a narcissistic personality disorder. Then, of course, there are some very cartoonish, caricatured, incredibly gory, incredibly spectacular, violent things that happen, which, that's why I say that he takes some liberties, because that doesn't really makes sense with the type of person that Patrick Bateman really would be like in real life. So whatever, this is a book. It's not an actual case. It's not something to really analyze. It's just something to think about. And it gave me a lot to think about. So I loved the character. I think he's my favorite character that I've read in 2017. I loved the writing style. Yes, it is repetitive. It is very detailed. There's a lot of very overwhelming like waves of detail. Patrick Bateman just is very careful to and very he makes it his task to really explain and describe what other people around him are wearing, what they're eating, everything. So that can be a little bit tiresome for some people, but I personally found it absolutely delicious to read. And like I said, it's exactly the way that a psychoanalyst or any therapist listens to a patient. This is what you're in for. So that was American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis, an absolute wonderful novel, incredibly literary, and the perfect combination of violence, darkness, the humor, and also very interesting things about society in general, which is another thing. This book does that incredibly well. It tells a very personal, individual story, but at the same time, it's telling the story of a society, a generation, a world, and even, you could say, the human existence, the human essence. So it's just, I think it's a book that would really benefit from buddy reads and from group reads and from, discussing it with a group. I thought this was an excellent novel, and like I said, I am giving it a 4.5 or 4.75 out of 5 stars. So those were my recent reads, numbers 49 to 50. Let me know in the comments down below what do you think, and I will talk to you later.